The smell of metal and blood filled the narrow corridor. Captain Reed walked slowly, his boots echoing against the cold floor. The detention block was too quiet. Outside, the war between humans and the alien race called the Vera had left cities in ruins. Inside this base, one prisoner had survived every interrogation. Every attempt to break her, Reed had been ordered to check on her. No one told him why. The heavy door slid open with a hiss. Inside, the light was dim, the air heavy. Chains clinked softly from the far corner. That's when he saw her. The alien was sitting on the floor, her back against the wall, wrists bound by thick metal cuffs that glowed faintly with an energy field. Her skin was pale with a strange silver shimmer, as if reflecting light that wasn't there. Her hair fell in tangled waves over her shoulders, and her silver eyes locked on him the moment he stepped inside. For a long moment, neither spoke. Reed had faced many Vera warriors on the battlefield, but this one was different. She was thinner, weaker looking. Yet something about the way she watched him made him uneasy. It wasn't fear, it was calculation. "You're the human soldier they sent." Her voice was low, rough from thirst, but steady. Reed stayed near the door. "I'm here to make sure you're still alive." She tilted her head slightly. "Alive? That's amusing. You've kept me here for 12 days without sunlight, with only enough food to keep me breathing." And yet she tapped her chest with a chained hand. "My heart still beats." Reed didn't answer. He had learned that silence often revealed more than questions. She looked down for a moment, then slowly lifted her gaze, meeting his eyes again. And that's when she said it. "Show mercy, human. My body will give you powerful offspring." The words hung in the air like a live grenade. Reed felt his muscles tense. He'd been offered bribes before. Money, freedom, safe passage. But this was different. This was dangerous. "What did you just say?" he asked, his voice hard. Her silver eyes didn't blink. "You heard me. My people's blood carries strength beyond your kind's limits. Your human blood carries something else, adaptability, survival. Together, our child could be unstoppable." Reed stepped closer, his shadow falling over her. "Is that why you're still alive? Waiting for someone to take you up on that offer?" A faint smile touched her lips, but it wasn't warm. "No, I'm still alive because they want to execute me slowly, as an example. But you," her voice softened, almost pleading, "you could change that. You could save me." He could feel the tension in the air, like standing too close. To a live wire? Was this some kind of trap? If he freed her, she might kill him the moment her chains came off. But her voice carried something that didn't sound like a lie. "Why me?" he asked finally. "You've seen hundreds of humans in this war. Why single me out?" Her eyes flickered with something he couldn't read. "Because you don't look at me like prey. Or like a monster. You look at me like someone deciding whether I deserve to live." Reed didn't respond. He wasn't sure if she was right. Wasn't even sure if he cared. But deep inside, a question formed: what if she was telling the truth? What if her body really could create something no army could defeat? A deep boom shook the walls, dust falling from the ceiling. Somewhere far above, the base trembled with the sound of distant explosions. Reed's hand instinctively went to his sidearm. The alien's chains rattled as she leaned forward. "You hear that? Your enemies are coming? When they break through, they won't care if I'm chained or not. They'll kill everyone, including you." Another explosion. Closer this time. The lights flickered. Reed could almost feel the heat of battle creeping toward them through the concrete walls. "You could leave," she whispered, her voice almost drowned by the rumble. "Or you could take me with you. I will fight beside you. If I live, I will give you the future you can't imagine." Reed stood still, the sound of alarms beginning to scream in the distance. He had seconds to decide. The alien lifted, her hands, the chains pulling tight. "All I need is your word, human. Show mercy." Her silver eyes were locked on his, and for the first time since he entered, Reed felt something strange pull, like the room had shrunk to just the two of them. The war outside faded for a heartbeat, replaced by the weight of the choice in front of him. He didn't trust her. But he didn't trust the people who chained her either. Somewhere above. A blast shook the floor so hard he stumbled forward, his hand brushing the cold metal of her cuffs. She didn't flinch. Outside the cell, footsteps pounded toward the door. In moments, soldiers would arrive. If he didn't act now, the decision would be made for him, and Captain Reed hated letting other people decide his fate. The explosions from above faded into the distance, replaced by a heavy silence. Reed didn't open the cuffs that night. He walked out of the cell, but her voice stayed in his head, echoing with every step. The next morning, he came back. Lyrotha was the name she finally gave him, was sitting in the same spot, but her posture had changed. She was no longer slumped in exhaustion. Instead, she sat straight, her eyes following him like a hunter watching prey. "You came back," she said softly as if it was a victory. "I have questions," Reed replied, standing just beyond her reach. "You said your people betrayed. You, why?" Her lips curved into a bitter smile. "Because I refuse to burn human cities. I refuse to slaughter your children. My clan calls it weakness. I call it clarity." Reed studied her carefully. "So they locked you up?" "They tried to kill me first," she said, rolling her sleeve back to reveal a jagged scar running from her elbow to her wrist. "Poison, but my body rejected it." Reed's eyes narrowed. "You heal fast." "Faster than any human," she confirmed. "But that is nothing compared to what happens when our blood mixes with yours." He didn't answer, but she leaned forward, her chains clinking. "We have legends, human. Legends of children born from Vera and human bloodlines. They were stronger, faster, smarter. Some say they could see into the future. My people fear it because they cannot control it." Reed crossed his arms. "And you think I could make that happen?" Her gaze didn't waver. "Not think." No, a long silence passed. Reed's training screamed at him to treat this as manipulation. But there was something in her tone, something that didn't sound like a lie. She lowered her voice, almost to a whisper. "You want to know why you survived that skirmish 3 weeks ago? Why your squad was wiped out and you weren't even touched?" Reed stiffened. "How do you know about that?" "Because I was there," she said simply. "I saw the fire rain from the sky, saw the enemy close in, and I saw you. You fought like one of us. Your instincts, your movements, they were not human, and I knew. If I ever escaped, I would find you." Reed felt a cold weight settle in his chest. He had no memory of seeing her that day. Before he could respond, the floor trembled. The low hum of engines filled the room, followed by the faint sound of boots, marching many boots. Someone was coming, and they weren't his allies. Lyra's eyes hardened. "Those aren't your soldiers. They're bounty hunters." "How do you know?" Her smile was sharp. "Because my price is higher than a human general's head. And they will kill you too, just for standing in their way." Reed's hand went to his sidearm. The decision from last night returned like a punch to the gut. Free her and take the risk. Or leave her and fight alone. Lyra rose to her feet, the chains pulling taut. "You can keep your questions human, but if you keep me chained when they get here, neither of us will live to ask them." Outside, the heavy footsteps grew louder. Shadows moved under the crack of the door. Reed knew he had only seconds before the shooting started. The first blast hit like a hammer. The cell door shook violently, dust falling from the ceiling. Reed instinctively drew his pistol. Outside, muffled voices shouted in a language he didn't understand. Fast, harsh, and getting closer. "Lyra, S." Chains rattled as she stepped toward him. "You're here for me. You have one chance, human." Reed's instincts screamed at him, don't trust her. But the pounding of boots in the hall was too close now. He swore under his breath, pulled a small tool from his belt, and jammed it into the lock of her cuffs. Sparks spat as the magnetic seal broke. The moment the cuffs fell, Lyra's entire posture changed. She straightened, rolled her shoulders, and her silver eyes flared with a predatory gleam. For a heartbeat, Reed thought she might attack him. Instead, she stepped past him, placing herself between him and the door. The metal door burst open. 2 armored bounty hunters stormed in, rifles raised. Lyra moved like lightning, grabbing the first by the throat and slamming him into the wall so hard his helmet cracked. She twisted away from the second shot, spinning low, her clawed hands tearing his weapon from his grip. Reed fired over her shoulder, dropping a third attacker in the doorway. Smoke from the blaster fire mixed with the smell of burned metal. "Move," Lyra barked, shoving him into the corridor. They ran. The detention block was chaos. Alarms screamed. Red warning lights flashed. More bounty hunters spilled from side passages. Reed fired in short bursts, each shot precise. Lyra was a blur, leaping from wall to wall, claws and elbows breaking armor plates like they were glass. "Left," she shouted, dragging him down a narrow maintenance tunnel. Pipes hissed overhead, dripping steam. Reed's heart pounded. He had no map. But she moved like she'd memorized every inch of the base. Another explosion tore through the floor above, showering them with debris. They stumbled into a cargo bay filled with abandoned crates. Reed took cover behind one, firing at the hunters swarming in. Lyra crouched beside him, breathing hard, eyes scanning. "They've blocked the main hangar," she said, voice sharp. "We'll have to go through the storm vents." "Storm vents?" She smirked, even in the chaos. "Unless you want to. Stay and die." They dashed toward a narrow service hatch. Reed covered her as she forced it open. Cold air rushed in, carrying the faint scent of ozone. The vent was a long, sloping tunnel that led up toward a distant glow. Halfway up, Reed's foot slipped on the frost-slick floor. Lyra caught his arm, her grip almost bruising. "Don't stop," she warned. "They'll be right behind us." As if to prove her point, a blaster bolt sizzled past his head, striking the wall. They scrambled faster. Lyra reached the top first, shoving open a grate tanned. They burst out into blinding white light. Snow. Endless snow. Stretching across jagged mountains. The wind howled, carrying flecks of ice that stung their skin. Reed could see the heat shimmer of ships lifting off in the distance, probably more hunters circling around. "We need to keep moving," Lyra said, scanning the horizon. "There's an old human outpost 2 clicks north. If we make it before they find us, we live." Reed glanced back at the vent. Shadows moved inside, pursuers already climbing. No more hesitation. He followed Lyra into the blizzard, the wind swallowing their tracks almost as fast as they made them. Asterisk the snowstorm. Swallowed them whole. Reed's visor fogged with every breath, his boots crunching in deep drifts. Lyra moved ahead with strange ease, her bare hands brushing against the icy rock as if she could feel the safest path. After nearly an hour, they reached a dark shape half buried under snow. Up close, Reed recognized it, a human listening, post from the early days of the war. Long abandoned, Lyra kicked snow from a side hatch, forcing it open with a sharp twist. A cloud of cold, stale air escaped. "Inside," she said, glancing over her shoulder. Her silver eyes scanned the white horizon, searching for movement. The hatch shut behind them with a heavy clang. Reed's flashlight beam cut through the dark, revealing dust-covered consoles, broken chairs, a ceiling dripping with melted snow. Lyra moved without hesitation, heading straight for the corner where a long-dead power terminal stood. She pressed her palm against it. Reed heard a faint hum, the old circuits coming to life. "How'd you do that?" he asked. Her lips curved faintly. "Your technology was built with Veriparts, human. We know its bones better than you do." The heaters rattled weakly too. Life, filling the room with a low warmth. Reed removed his gloves, rubbing his stiff fingers. For the first time since the prison break, there was silence. They sat near the heater, facing each other. The flicker of light softened Lyra's features, her sharp cheekbones, the faint silver glow under her skin.
"How your day?"
Reed noticed she was watching him, not like a soldier studies an enemy, like someone measuring trust. "You could have left me back there," she said quietly. "You could have killed me the second I freed you," he replied. Her eyes narrowed slightly, but there was no threat in it. "If I wanted you dead, you'd already be gone." They sat in silence for a while. The storm outside battered the walls, but inside it felt almost still. Finally, Lyra spoke again. "My people have a prophecy. It says the clans will only unite when a child is born from a union of 2 bloodlines, Vera and another strong race. Your kind has survived wars, famine, and worlds we cannot live on. That strength could end our civil war. Reed shook his head. I'm a soldier, not part of your politics. Her gaze held him firmly. This isn't politics, human. This is survival. Mine, and maybe yours. For a moment, Reed saw something behind her words, a shadow of pain. She wasn't just talking about her people. She was talking about herself. A sudden noise broke the quiet, a faint ping from the old radar console. Reed crossed the room, brushing frost from the screen. The signal was weak, but unmistakable. Movement. Less than 3 kilometers away. They've found our trail, he said grimly. Lyra stood, her posture tightening. Then this place becomes our grave if we stay. Reed grabbed his rifle, his mind already racing. They had warmth, a roof, and shelter, but not for long. The hunters were closing in, and in the white wasteland outside. There was nowhere to hide for long. As Lyra pulled her cloak tight, she gave him one last look. You saved me once, human. Now I'll save you. Follow me, and don't fall behind. The storm had eased, but the silence outside was worse than the wind. Reed knew what that meant. Predators were near. He followed Lyra down a narrow slope between jagged cliffs. Every step crunched loudly in the snow, and every sound seemed too loud. She moved with sharp precision, her silver eyes flicking to every shadow, every drift that looked too perfect. They're close, she murmured. How close? Reed whispered back. Her answer came in the form of a sharp, distant crack-like, ice-breaking butt to metallic. A sniper shot. The round slammed into the rock inches from his head, spraying shards of stone across his face. Down. Lyra hissed, dragging him behind a ridge. Blaster fire lit the snow in flashes of red. Shadows moved above them, 3, maybe for bounty hunters, their armor blending into the white terrain. Reed returned fire, his shots echoing against the cliffs, but they were fast, dropping behind cover before he could aim. Lyra pressed a small curved blade into his palm. They get close, use this. Don't hesitate. They crawled through the snow, trying to stay out of sight. Reed's breath burned in his lungs, the cold biting through his gear. Every so often, Lyra would stop suddenly, her ears twitching at sounds he couldn't hear, like the faint scrape of a boot on ice far away. Then came the sound he dreaded, a deep, rhythmic hum. A drone floated into view over the ridge, its scanning lens sweeping the ground. Reed aimed, but Lyra stopped him. Too late, she whispered. The drone let out a sharp alarm. Somewhere behind them, heavy boots began moving fast. Run, she ordered. They broke into a sprint, weaving between snow-covered boulders as shots cracked around them. Reed felt the heat of one bolt graze past his shoulder. Lyra leaped onto a ledge, grabbed his arm and pulled him up just as a blast tore through the ground where he had been standing. They reached a narrow crevice between 2 cliffs. Lyra pushed him inside first. The space was so tight that the cold rock scraped his armor as they squeezed through. Behind them, shouts in the alien tongue grew louder, angry, hunting. Reed's foot caught on something metal buried in the snow. He looked down. It was an old trip mine. The blinking light told him it still worked. He glanced at Lyra. You thinking what I'm thinking? She smiled, sharp and dangerous. I knew you weren't just a soldier. Said it. Minutes later, they were crouched behind a rock at the far end of the crevice. The first bounty hunter entered, his weapon raised. The mine detonated. The snow swallowed the blast, but the shockwave rolled through the ground. The shouts stopped. The silence returned. Reed exhaled slowly. That'll buy us time. Not much, Lyra replied. One still alive will be angrier. And anger makes hunters faster. Reed looked at her, the cold air between them carrying more than just danger now. Then we keep moving. Lyra nodded, her expression unreadable. But as she turned away, he caught the faintest flicker of something in her eyes. Respect. Asterisk. The wind carried the smell of smoke before they saw the enemy. From the ridge ahead, dark figures emerge, armored bounty hunters, rifles glowing hot in the cold air. Reed counted at least a dozen, their visors reflecting the pale light of the mountains. They've cut off every escape, Lyra said. Quietly, this is where they think we die. Reed checked his am. barely a full clip. Then we make them earn it. They took position inside the ruins of an ancient fortress, massive stone walls cracked with age, half buried in snow. The narrow gaps between the blocks became firing windows. Reed crouched behind one, scanning the white expanse. Lyra moved like liquid shadow, positioning herself higher up, her claws curling against the stone for grip. The first shot came from the enemy, a bright bolt, slicing past Reed's head. He returned fire, dropping one before the rest surged forward. The battle exploded into chaos. Reed fired methodically, every shot precise, forcing the enemy to stay low. Lyra, in contrast, was a blur leaping from wall to wall, dropping down on attackers with bone-crushing force, then vanishing again into the blizzard. A grenade landed near Reed. Without thinking, Lyra dove, grabbed it, and hurled it back before it detonated midair. The explosion painted the snow in a shower of sparks. "You're welcome," she shouted over the noise. "I wasn't going to say thank you," Red called back, firing at another target. The hunters adapted fast, splitting into two groups. One kept up suppressing fire, the other flanked around the fortress. Reed spotted them just in time. Right side. 3 of them. Lyra didn't hesitate. She vaulted over the wall, disappearing into the snowstorm. Reed heard shouts, then silence, and then she reappeared, dragging 2 bodies and tossing their weapons at his feet. "They won't be shooting at you anymore," she said, breathing hard but grinning. But their small victories didn't stop the inevitable. The remaining hunters regrouped, their leader stepping forward. His armor was heavier, his weapon larger, and the glowing red symbols on his chest plate marked him as elite. "Give us the Vera," his voice boomed through a translator. "And you can live, human." Reed didn't answer. He stepped out from cover, his rifle aimed square at the leader's visor. Not happening. The leader raised his weapon. Lyra dropped from above, slamming into him with a snarl, her claws ripping through his armor. They crashed into the snow, rolling in, a violent blur. Reed covered her, firing at the hunters trying to reach them. It was brutal. It was desperate. But together, they fought like a single force. Reed's steady precision and Lyra's savage speed covering each other's weaknesses. When the last hunter fell, silence swallowed the fortress. Reed's rifle clicked empty. Lyra stood beside him, her chest rising and falling, her silver eyes locked on him. "You could have left me," she said, voice low. "But you didn't." He met her gaze. "You could have run, but you didn't." They stood there in the cold, the snow settling quietly around them. The war wasn't over. The hunters would come again. But for now, they had survived together. The snow had stopped falling. The battlefield lay silent, broken weapons, half buried in white, smoke curling from frozen corpses. Reed stood at the edge of the ruined fortress, his breath slow, his body heavy from the fight. Lyra was beside him, her silver hair tangled, her claws still stained with dark blood. The wind carried no sound, now only the quiet weight of survival. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Lyra broke the silence. "You know they won't stop, human. You've seen it. The hunters. My people. Even your own commanders. They'll come for me." Reed didn't look at her. "Yeah, and they'll come for me too. Now." She stepped closer, her voice lower. "There's only one way forward. You can walk away now, and they might spare you. Or," she hesitated just for a heartbeat before meeting his eyes, "you can stay, and we make something the galaxy will fear to touch." Reed turned to face her fully. Her expression was unreadable, but her silver eyes burned with something raw: hope, fear, and a strange kind of trust that hadn't been there before. He thought of the moment in her cell when she first begged him for mercy. He thought of the battles they had fought together, the countless times she could have let him die but didn't. He thought of her words about a child who could change the galaxy. He also thought of the cost, the endless hunt, the life on the run, the war that would follow them wherever they went. Lyra took a single step closer. So close now that the cold of the wind was replaced by the faint warmth of her breath. So human. "Do you leave me here, or do you take my hand and make history?" Reed's eyes dropped to her outstretched hand. His heartbeat slowed. The choice was simple. The choice was impossible. He reached out. The horizon erupted with the glow of incoming ships. Lyra's smile was faint but fierce. Then we run. Together. The two figures turned and vanished into the white, leaving only the snow. To hide their tracks, somewhere above, the war continued. But for Reed and Lyra, the next chapter had already begun. Series completed. This ending leaves room for a sequel, gives your viewers emotional closure, and still keeps a mystery. Hook, so they'll want more.